Welcome to Outsourcing Must-Haves in 2026. I'm Perry Rarick from Outsource Pharma and Life Science Connect. During this special event, we're discussing regional supply chains, onshoring, and the latest strategies, all against a backdrop of what is often referred to as a tenuous geopolitical landscape. Joining us are experts from across the biopharmaceutical industry. In a bit, we'll be joined by my friend Elliot Berger, who has much in store for us, including a special interview, and we'll hear from some top CDMOs serving the industry. But we're going to begin with a panel discussion, three experts you will easily recognize. However, allow me to introduce them to you. Joining us is Christophe Bouerki, a senior executive with over 20 years of experience in the global pharmaceutical industry, leading large-scale transformation across finance, operations, procurement, and outsourcing. Currently, he is the global head of procurement and CDMO at Novartis, where he guides their long-term growth and innovation agenda. Welcome, Christophe.
Thank you, Perry. Hi, everybody. Glad to be here.
Also with us is Jennifer Cannon. She has over 18 years of leadership experience with companies like Lonza, AbbVie, and Ajinomoto. She currently serves as the president of commercial operations for the Pharma Services Group at Thermo Fisher Scientific, following senior roles leading global biologic sales, mammalian drug substance operations, and contract manufacturing. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thanks so much for having me, Perry. It's great to be here.
And finally joining us is John Cheminsky. He is a top CDMO key opinion leader and Born Partners senior advisor. He is also the former CEO and board chair of Catalent. He led that company from 2009 till 2023 after spending nearly 20 years in leadership roles with GE Health. Additionally, he serves on the boards of radiology departments, Quidel Ortho, and he advises bioscience investing firm Abingworth. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Uncertainty requires a leader who understands risks, but can navigate them and lead their organizations toward opportunities. Each of our panelists is that kind of leader, and we're excited to hear from them today about what the industry is facing. And John, I'd like to begin with you. I bleakly described, current situations, and I do hear this from a lot of folks I talk to, as tenuous, uncertain, this geopolitical landscape. How do you describe it?
Well, first of all, the 2020s have so far turned out to be one of the most interesting decades ever. Let's start with that. I think you can describe our time right now as interesting. You can describe it as a little bit chaotic, but let's just remember that this all started with COVID in 2020. And it was at that time where our industry, our industry is critically important to the world, to humans and human health. I would say, went through a time where we realized how important the pharmaceutical and biotech supply chains are. And in my industry, calling it pharmaceutical services, we went from being a vendor to really being a critical partner and a critical part of the whole ecosystem. So COVID really kind of got the ball rolling, and there was a lot of concerns about national security with regards to these pharmaceutical and biotech supply chains. We all went through an incredible period between 2020 and 2023. And, Catalent was, front and center in the fight against, COVID with the vaccines and therapeutics that we were developing and manufacturing. But after that, we thought things would settle down a little bit, right? And what ended up happening is, the current administration has basically taken the global world order and put it, on its head. And, people are trying to figure out exactly what is the next thing that's going to happen because it changes on a day-to-day basis. But let me make the following statements. Our industry operates on really long timelines, 7 to 10 years. and you cannot knee-jerk react to every new change and every new policy that comes out, because you've got, molecules that are, being discovered, and then maybe 10 or 12 years later, they may be approved and commercialized, right? So first and foremost, I would say, let's be calm, everybody. You really need to do the right thing for your company. What I think has happened is, let's say clearly in the United States, you'd say there's a nearshoring, onshoring effort. But first of all, the US in general just has very short memories and does what is in its best interest for the day, and sometimes for what is important politically for the moment. But the fact of the matter is people, don't want to tolerate that risk more. So I would say there is a bias for more US manufacturing capacity. I would say there is a bias for nearshoring and potentially onshoring. But when you take a look at the administration's policies, I would say they're painted as America first, but I would say it's much more about price. And what do I mean by that? If you take a look at what they've done with Section 232 and the proclamations that have come out, basically, they have used that trade tool, if you will, to really bring the pharmaceutical companies to the table to push their MFN initiative. So it comes across as, America first, pro-US manufacturing. But at the end of the day, they have gotten agreements with 16 pharmaceutical companies for reduced pricing, a 17th if they get Regeneron, and then they're going to move on down the line. So what I would say is, in turbulent times, you do have to keep your head about you. And again, in our industry, it's currently important to the world, for humans, human health, and you've got to make decisions that are the right decisions long term. I'll say the following: there's been $400 billion of announced expansions and capacities in the US from every company. Uh, and those are huge numbers. We'll see if they all come to bear. We don't know how many of those were already in process, and those send some very positive signals, and potentially they're trying to curry favor and get a visit to the White House or Mar-a-Lago or something like that, and influence the trade policy. The challenge I have in the pharmaceutical services industry is most legislators think a CDMO is a pharmaceutical company, and we're not. We don't have the same margins. We don't nearly have the capital for the CapEx expansion. So if we announce a 10, 20, or even $100 million CapEx expansion, that's huge. In Catalent's, heyday in 2023, I think we were doing $750 million of CapEx, which was absolutely insane. And it's since tooled back significantly. And I think the problem is again, when we get put in the same bucket as, global pharmaceutical companies, and don't get the right, kind of the right approach from a legislation standpoint, it can really have impacts. And we see that through what's going on with GDUFA and PDUFA. But I would say my main message is there's certainly a bias towards US manufacturing capacity and assets, and there should be. We're 50 to 60% of the overall R&D spend. So you want to be close to the molecule. So you should have your assets here so that you can, continue to be part of that, R&D pipeline, if you will. But I would also say beyond everybody keeping calm here, I think the right way to approach it is you do need to have the right geographic footprint, knowing that you want to reduce some of your risks, and it's probably a good idea to be close to the molecule here in the US.
Thanks for that great perspective, John. Really good. You set the tone for this discussion really well. Thank you for that. Jennifer, anything to add to what John said? And then you're managing quite a bit of that CapEx that John had referred to. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So, Yeah, I would echo John. Turbulent, constantly changing times. Agree on the keep calm and carry on. I think what's clear to us, what we're seeing in working with large, small pharma, biotech of all different sizes, what we're seeing is a much more proactive approach than ever before. I think over the last couple years, that these geopolitical dynamics or variables, it's not an exceptional or temporary disruption. It's here to stay, right? And so those that view it with us and our partners as an ongoing operating condition, it's a constant. Then you set yourself up for ongoing long-term stability. And whether that's regionalization and supply chain continuity and thinking about long-term contracts or maybe building dedicated assets, and we help our customers with that as well, where we will look at the traditional CDMO model, we'll look at dedicated lines or facilities, building in the US, whether it's on your own as an innovator or with a partner like a CDMO that can then help you employ that CapEx and de-risk it. Either way, it's onshoring. But what we're seeing is for those, again, those clients that are really proactively thinking about these geopolitical variables, they're planning in advance. And that regionalization is key to their supply chain and business continuity. And so whether we see this from development, early development of regionalization, all the way through to commercialization and market supply, and the complexities show up. We all know that those show up in supply chain, and they have for many, many years. The question is, where do they show up? And with these geopolitical dynamics, it makes it that much more, you know, challenging when you think about the long-term strategy. And so what we do is we really help our clients with our network just manage that complexity, prepare for it, know it's going to happen, and so together we're really looking at how we ensure that supply chain timelines and advancement to commercialization doesn't pause or slow down or reset. So always preparing for those solutions, I think, minimizes the worry to your question, Perry, and helps us set up more creative solutions. So just preparing for that dynamic and change is what we're helping our clients do.
I love your pragmatic approach, just common sense. Christoph, would you add anything to what is said? You face a little bit, it's a little different for you. Novartis has its own pipeline, but you also provide services to other drug innovators. So what kind of color can you add to, it's a busy intersection. Could you talk about that?
Oh, no, thanks a lot. Of course, I fully agree what John and Jennifer already said. Yes, it's volatile at the moment, but probably the last years learned us to deal with that. It's not so new. And of course, our focus in Novartis is always patient supply. Nothing changed. And as John said, we are here for the long run. It's not about next year, it's about the next 100 years probably. And therefore, we look at this as an opportunity, always patient supply agility. And again, this, as you mentioned, it's for our own products, but it's also for our customers. We learned that well when the COVID time hitting the world. Then we helped out on filling for our COVID vaccines for other companies. And now, of course, yes, there are geopolitical turmoils or changes. But again, it's always about patient supply and where are those patients. And therefore, we can adapt as long as we know where to focus and we are in the long horizon. I think nothing changed actually versus what we were always looking at also for the last years.
You know, I recently went to a conference and about every other person I spoke to was involved in some sort of onshoring project. So it was amazing. It may not be spoken about a lot, but it's happening. It's happening everywhere. Jennifer, I want to come back to you and talk about something. Have you speak about something that John mentioned was the importance of a geographic footprint. And if you could talk a little more detail. So you're doing, there's quite a bit of CapEx management, and quite a bit of capacity expansion for you in the United States. Why New Jersey, North Carolina? Why where you are? Why are you growing there?
Great question. So thank you. Thanks for asking. I think in going back to John's comment, a lot of this started even very early on with COVID. That drive for regionality. Of course, there's a focus here in onshoring to the US, but that regionality, Asia for Asia, Europe for Europe, and so on, that started early on within COVID. And I think where Thermo Fisher made investments was really thinking about from development to commercialization. And we expanded our manufacturing network across all regions globally. We've done this with all modalities and formats. So from small molecule API manufacturing, we have them in Europe. We have a very large site in Florence, South Carolina, both developments through commercial manufacturing. We've done this with our sterile fill finish. We have a very large site in Greenville, North Carolina, and expanded that on into New Jersey, our recent acquisition of a site from Sanofi in Ridgefield, New Jersey. We're expanding our Plainville, Massachusetts, and that regionality and helping our customers to do that onshoring in dedicated capacity or shared capacity. But it's been a dynamic that I think is just emphasized more so with some of tariff policy and supply chain continuity. So we've always kind of had that global footprint, and we're expanding more and more where we see the demand and the need from our customers. When you do that and you expand your network so significantly across the globe, you have to think about how you make sure the network still and the sites are connected. And so a second kind of investment that we've really been keen to do is a network level technical team and expert. And so of course our quality team is always network, but we've established this network level above site MSAT technical SME teams and network level CMC portfolio leads that really help manage some of these tech transfers. So many molecules are traveling to different sites, and having a seamless tech transfer across global nodes is super critical to provide that supply chain continuity and de-risk some of the supply chain movements, if you think about that. And so we've set up this network level infrastructure and one team kind of approach to ensuring these seamless tech transfers and continuity across the network. And then to make the people successful, we set up and invested heavily over the last couple of years in our AI-enabled digital systems and capabilities. So just to have a digital connectivity and communication so that we can see changes in demand and see how the advancement of certain tech transfers are going across our entire network. And so it's not feeling like several different CDMOs, but a more connected network level CDMO.
Yeah. You make it sound easy. This is hard work. What you're talking about, this seamless integration doesn't just naturally happen. Well done. Just really something. I'm going to come back to John in a minute and have him comment on this. But Christoph, so I don't want to leave Europe out of this. So we've been, this isn't just a US centric solution to a global challenge. But Europe plays a role in this, but also you've got this growing research center in San Diego. So how does Europe play the role, and what's going on in San Diego?
No, good question. Now, of course, for us in Novartis, we have more than 30 sites around the world. So for us to adapt the network is actually something what we do all the time. We look at it and we see where again, always patient first. Where do we need to have our assets? We were always and are heavily invested in the US. So it's obvious we have massive research centers in New Jersey, around also West Coast, and we always, when we look at cell and gene and now radioligand, lots of footprint already established in the US. So this is not is not new, no. Now, yes, the West Coast, we realize that we have so many research associates and talents, so we clearly want to double down more on the West Coast. So that's true. We announced a big investment, no, in the West Coast, but that is complementary to what we have, because we clearly see we need even more on research in the US. Now, historically, given where we are, our headquarters in Switzerland, obviously we are strong in Europe from a manufacturing footprint, and that doesn't change. Even on the onshoring of the US, which again, John mentioned, 50% of the sales is most pharma companies have in the US. So obviously, an onshoring is a great, and that's what we do. But it doesn't mean, thanks to our growth and our demands worldwide, that doesn't mean now we would not invest anymore in Europe. The opposite, we're continuing having new technologies also in Europe. So it's not an either or. It's yes, it's now at the moment, of course, we double down in the US, be it research, be it in manufacturing footprint. But thanks to the growth as pharma company, it does not mean Europe would reduce. We have great technology and hubs in Slovenia, in Switzerland, in Austria, and this will stay.
Yeah. Thank you for all that hard work. Again, you make it sound easy. This is really hard work. I know you're putting in some long hours, you and your team. So thank you for looking ahead and stepping up and doing all that. John, I'd like to get your thoughts on some like timeline expectations. Like, I think we have all agreed that, some people have described this as a storm. We just need to kind of hunker down or maybe move out of the way, and all of this will pass. It'll get back to normal. I don't think any of you believe this. This is permanent. This is a permanent change to shore up our supply chains. Um, how do you dice up this timeline and some of the expectations and comments on anything that Jennifer and Christoph has shared with us?
Yeah, so first of all, loved hearing from both Jennifer and Christoph, and I think what I would just echo what they're saying, or maybe reinforce what they're saying. The pharmaceutical supply chains, this is a professional group of people that have put together incredible supply chains. I mean, this is not something that happened during COVID. We found some weak points during COVID. There's no doubt about it. But the reality is, we've been dealing with for the last 20 years since I've been in this business, understanding where is inventory, how much inventory do we have? We have, again, patients on the other end of life-saving or life-enhancing medications that we cannot be stocked out on. And so you at times would have 6 months worth of inventory in different locations. I think, we've gotten better and now we can have 3 months. But the whole idea, and I think Jennifer was making great points around, whether it's, having dual sourcing situations, the ability to detect transfer between sites, really managing risk. And I would say the pharmaceutical, the pharma companies, the CDMOs, they work hand in hand to manage risk, because you have to remember, this is not dollars. It's much more about the patients that have life-saving and life-enhancing medicine. So risk management has always been a huge part of pharmaceutical supply chains. And I think, as Jennifer talked about, basically the resilience that we need to have, the supply chain agility, common sense approach, early on discussions. This is really, again, part of the industry. And I just think, again, during COVID, I think some things were accelerated, and we maybe have found some of our overall weak points. I would say, just as an aside, the whole GLP-1 phenomena has probably done more to create other risks for the industry because of the massive grab for capacity that you need in the sterile manufacturing or in the peptides. That's probably done just as much as anything that has been happening with a trade policy sampler. So I'll just put that aside, because so we're always dealing with things like that in the industry. I made the comment up front that this is a long cycle business. So I know the topic here is nearshoring and reshoring, and I'll echo what Jennifer also said. It's here to stay. And I think, with COVID and then the trade policies, it's like, okay, like I need to de-risk and I need to be in the right locations. But I would say this is not a US only phenomena. That's number one. I would say there's not only a bias for US assets, but there's a bias for Western assets. China, no longer in vogue, but needed for certain things. India, same thing. Singapore, anything non-Western Europe, US isn't in vogue anymore, and you're trying to get things in place. From a timeline standpoint, let's first start here. You can't legislate away cost structures. So API manufacturing, nutraceuticals, that's not coming back. Okay. Maybe we can enhance capacity that we have for what we have, but those cost structures can never be made right. And at the end, price is a serious component in the overall healthcare system, whether it's the government, the payers, or patients, right? So you can't ignore that. I would say in that long cycle business over the next 7 to 10 years, you will see incremental decisions on capex for additional capacity, incremental investments in new sites or M&A that will be biased towards the U.S. We talked about the $400 billion of announced expansions for capex, R&D, or capacity in the U.S. What you'll see is you'll just see that incrementally over the next 7 to 10 years, we will have shifted, but it won't be massive, but we will have shifted to ensure that, per Christoph's point and Jennifer's point, that you have the right geographical footprint to take care of risks and satisfy your customers. And again, we're also dependent on demand and where the work's getting done. So again, with 50 to 60% of the R&D spend in the US, you're going to be where the molecule is. We're still going to have 40, 50%, you know, or maybe it's 30 to 40 in Europe, the rest being in Asia. You're going to continue to see that. But this is not an overnight shift. This is a long-term shift that, as has been said, this is here to stay. But I think it's being done just to continue to manage the risks, satisfy customers, and most importantly, ensure that patients get the life-saving, life-enhancing medications that they need.
Yeah, inevitably when a pharmaceutical company and a CDMO present their capabilities and their capacity, there's this geographic footprint. You renewed the importance of that diagram, that schematic. It's really I'm going to be viewing these differently now, John. I was going to ask you, John, the perspective from the investment community, but I'm going to I'm going to make that a better question. How are you advising the
Sure.
investment community to take advantage, or not take advantage, but support these opportunities?
Sure. So just to put it in perspective in terms of where my perspective comes from. So I do senior advising work for Born Partners. Born Partners is a boutique investment bank who focuses on pharmaceutical services. So what they do is they're generally a sell side advisor for deals that are in the $200 million to $1 billion range. So clearly, when I was with Catalent, you've got your Morgan Stanleys, of the world, your JP Morgans. But the reality is we were buying those assets in the $200 million to $1 billion range. That's how I first got to know Bourne, because the way I describe it is they're swimming in the ponds that I'm fishing, right? So they knew all the sponsors, they know all the CDMOs. And so I would say that I have dialogues with somewhere around 30 to 50 different management teams with CDMOs. There's a ton. I mean, putting aside the Thermos, the Catalans, the Wuxis, et cetera. There's hundreds, okay, of CDMOs there that are much smaller in that mid-sized range, so $200 million to $1 billion range. And then at the same standpoint, I probably interact with, let's call it 30 different private equity firms. Everybody knows of Blackstone. I say that because of Catalent, but there are names that people haven't heard of before, but they're heavily weighting where they want to invest into pharma services and CDMO. So that kind of gives me an overall perspective. I do the same. What I just said in with your last question is pretty much the same advice that I provide to PE owners or to management teams that I'm giving counsel to, which is, number one, you just need to understand what happens in a CDMO. In a CDMO is, do I have the right capability and do I have the right capacity and do I have the right quality systems? You have those three things in a market where there's demand, a lot of good things can happen, right? And so you start with, do I have the right capabilities and the right capacity? And then you go towards where am I best suited to invest? And in many cases, again, there's that bias towards U.S. investing. I will tell you, a lot of PE firms or management teams they work with for CDMOs, if they're not heavily invested in the U.S., they're looking to find a foothold. There's a small company owned by GHO. It's called Ardena. They were a European-based CDMO, needed to get into the U.S. They bought Catalent's Somerset facility, and now they have the U.S. footprint. These are the kind of things that are happening. Same thing if you look at Bobby Shane. And so we're seeing a great Bora Pharmaceuticals. He's running a great CMO. It was Taiwanese based. He's Taiwanese, but he's been buying US based assets. So, in the end, the most amount of advising work that we do is right capabilities for the right price. So that's really much more of what we do advising about. But I would say that overall, the inbound questions I get is about making sure that they have the right assets in the U.S. And because again, it's not just policy and trade. It's a lot about where's the R&D being spent and where are those molecules.
Mhm.
We could go on this segment of the discussion on the what and how and why. But I want to fast forward a little bit. We've talked about this is a permanent change. Supply chains are permanent. Last year, 42% of global pharmaceutical companies reported supply chain disruptions. And all of you have mentioned there's a patient at the end of this supply chain that's relying on a therapy that may in fact be saving their lives, but certainly improving their lives. How do we know we're getting it right? What kind of KPIs are you monitoring? What are you paying attention to? What are you concerned about? And just what are you paying attention to confirm that we're getting this right, that we know we're going to be there? And I'll maybe go in a reverse order. Christoph, how would you respond to that?
For us, and I think for every pharma company, obviously the first obvious KPI, and I think the most important one, is customer service level. No, so we monitor this for our own products. We look at this obviously for our CMO customers. So do we get what we promised out, and do we serve the patients? So this one, and in Novartis, we are very proud to have that at 99.9, which we look at it very carefully. So this is, did we get it right? Obviously, at the end of the day, arriving at the patient. And then what we do on all these opportunities, of course, network, we mentioned it before, dual supply. Now we double down in the US to have even more supply options. So this helps us to deal with any kinds of volatility. And then what we are very proud also in Novartis is our end-to-end capability, that we really are vertically integrated. So we go from biodrug substance to filling. So we really feel that with such an integration, of course, again, any supply risk is more mitigated, and that helps us also to offer that to our customers. So again, customer service level, flexibility in the supply, and integration.
Mhm.
Jennifer, how about you? Same question for you.
Oh, yeah, Christoph really brings up some good points. Really, customer service is so key. And I really, really appreciate this question. It's a great question, and I guess I'll answer it very simply and in a very humble way because, Perry, your point is this what we're doing is not easy, and we're only successful with strong partnerships with our clients. So I say it in a humble way that really, we know we get it right when the execution is just plain predictable and boring. Boring is good, and we aspire to be boring in how we deliver that because despite geopolitical variables, disruption around us, you think about a lot of the dynamics we've just been discussing over the last hour, throw on top Annex 1 compliance and what agencies are coming through despite, it on top of the geopolitical variables. I think you want your operations and your performance to be that predictable, stable execution. And that's the primary signal, in addition to the customer service, of course, that our system is performing well and that we are constantly mitigating any type of complexity and risk in the supply chain. So again, we aspire to be stable and boring. And I think the program should move forward without interruption. Where we see complexity is when you're transitioning in those critical time points. You get a good readout, you have to scale from a phase 2 to phase 3, or you've got your commercialization readiness, and you're now moving through that tech transfer, which is such a critical period of time leading up to commercialization. So those transition points become watchouts. They're areas where we really want the highest operational and quality performance. Um, Other KPIs that we look out would be, cycle time remains consistent. Again, the transitions between those critical time points in your development to commercialization are seamless and smooth, and that supply is always predictable. Not only the fill or the start, but also the release. And so the type of capability, the type of capacity, but also the quality performance is what we really, really look to and develop these KPIs around each one of those steps in the process that ensure that kind of predictable execution. And so we're constantly adapting, right? And I think the lever that we all have to utilize is really around this digital enablement and AI. AI becomes a really critical driver to that consistent execution because it allows us to track a lot more data points over a much broader set of sites and lines and reactors than we've ever been able to do before. And so kind of having that digital process and structure along with the team and capability is what's key.
Yeah, awesome. Stable and boring. I wrote that down. That's such a keeper. That's a sign of success. John, what are you paying attention of that's going to help you sleep better at night? That things are on track and this is going to all work out.
Well, first of all, I know that boring and stable is quite aspirational. This is a grindy business. If you're in
Mhm.
pharmaceutical supply chain, you're a grinder. Let me just say that, whether you're with Christoph or Jennifer, you've got tens of sites. Catalent, we had 54, and there's always a banana peel around the corner. And it generally comes from a quality standpoint. You're managing thousands of deviations on a continual basis. And the FDA and the other regulatory bodies, they're very, very good, and they can be very onerous depending upon what their bent is. Certainly, the FDA post-COVID seems to be grinding a little bit of back and X with CDMOs. So it's been a really, really tough time. But for me, you know, um, deviations were a key benchmark. Obviously, you're looking for, how many inspections that I had that had 0 483s, which if you're a sterile site, forget it. 90% of them are all getting a 483 at this point, and they probably should because we're always trying to improve the overall quality. Jennifer mentioned Annex 1, which has thrown a lot of, a lot into the mix, if you will. But quality in terms of managing and tracking your deviations, making sure that you have a quality culture, that you're going after your critical and major deviations. AI is going to be super helpful here. That's one of the areas that it needs to be applied to is really deviation management and the root cause analysis post kappa. Like everybody needs to be doing that in our industry. But in terms of how do you feel good? I'll come back to kind of, Christoph and Jennifer. I mean, if you are delivering batches on time and you have a healthy network and you don't have an issue where you're putting your network potentially at risk, that you're at least in the right spot. But the canary in the coal mine for our industry is really starts with your quality system and looking at what's happening with deviations. And that's your first signal about whether or not you're on the right track to deliver operationally.
Mhm.
What a great discussion. I believe that we've just scratched the surface on this topic, and I hope we can all get together again and continue this conversation. Thank you very much for being with us. You remind me of the appreciation I have for this industry that's doing so much good for us that goes really unnoticed and the hard work you do. Thank you for that. And thank you for being with us today. Christoph Buerke from Novartis, Jennifer Cannon from Thermo Fisher Scientific, and John Chiminski from Bourne Partners, Senior Advisor there. Thank you all for being with us today.
Great being with you.
Thank you.
Joining us now, we're being joined by Elliot Berger, who has much more in store for us. So we've just begun. Stay with us.
Thank you, my friend Perry, for this wonderful panel, and welcome everyone again to this great event between Outsourced Pharma and Orientation Marketing on regional manufacturing and must-have strategy for 2026. Given all of the geopolitical pressures going on and investment that's resulting from it for regional manufacturing bases and reshoring and onshoring, you pick your favorite term. I like friendshoring in particular. It's a very timely discussion, and I hope you enjoyed the three great speakers that Perry had on, my old friend and boss, John Chiminski, as well as great speakers from Novartis and Thermo. If anybody knows how that works, it's those three. This will be followed by some presentations from great CDMO on the solutions and the trends they're seeing in this regional manufacturing and reshoring trend. But before we get to the ordinary, I want to spend a few seconds on the extraordinary. Given all of the needs that innovators and manufacturers and license holders, you name it, have in terms of onshoring production to the US, a lot of that can be met by in-house investment. A lot of that can be met by current CDMO capacity and partnerships. But a few of these things require real customization, real bespoke arrangements, a factory within the factory, a custom suite, a custom train, or even support for manufacturing your complex products in-house. So that's what we're going to talk about in this short panel before we get to everybody's presentations. I am Elliot Berger. I am a director at Orientation Marketing, a co-sponsor of this event, and an executive consultant on marketing and strategies through CDMOs and their investors. With me today are Kent Payne and Russ Miller, two industry veterans I know for a long time that know how things work, how success looks like, what the pitfalls are, and how CDMO and its sponsor partnerships should look like when they are successful. So I'll ask them to introduce themselves briefly before we get into the majority of the discussion. Kent, let's start with you.
Yeah, happy to be with you here today, Elliot. And Russ, look, I started as a scientist, a PhD chemist at Searle, then I went to Novartis, and then migrated into the first CDMO, integrated CDMO, way back in the day, which became Catalent Pharma Solutions. I'm here today as after having been a CEO 3 times. Now I'm a managing director with Wilmington Pharmatech, among my other responsibilities. So happy to be here with you today.
Yeah, all right. And Kent and I go way back, and he is a chemist, and nobody's perfect, but he survived that and is now an executive at Wilmington. Wilmington is a recent CureVal investment in the API space with an American campus in really the cradle of American chemistry in Wilmington, Delaware, and the old DuPont Merck facility. So we'll talk to Kent about that in a little bit. It's a fascinating story. Russ, please.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Russ Miller. I'm the Global Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Enzene. I started my career, like Ken, as a scientist, working in the lab, helping do formulations and development and analytics. But a majority of my time, 25 plus years at this point, has been in the CDMO space, helping clients across the spectrum from preclinical to commercial programs. And I joined Enzene about 3 years ago, and we're an innovative biotech CDMO helping clients bring success forward.
Yeah. Enzene is a fascinating company as well with what I would even factorize is probably world's best continuous manufacturing capability out there and strongest yields and a few other interesting initiatives why we have Russ on here. But before we get to solutions, I think the audience is really working on sorting through what a regional manufacturing strategy should look like, what success should look like, what people are worried about. You guys meet with a lot of innovators and a lot of sponsors all the time. What are you seeing and hearing in the industry right now? What are people worrying about? What are people working on? What's working? What's not working? Cheryl.
Yeah, maybe I can start. A lot of this goes back to things that even I was looking at when I was outsourcing as part of pharma. And that is you're looking to make sure that number one, you have a partner that understands and is expert in the scientific area that you're trying to solve. The second piece is really, when I was looking and today what I'm hearing from the clients is they want to de-risk. We've had a number of years over the last 5 to 10 years. There have been a number of instances where geographic diversity becomes a concern. And frankly, I would say that also even some of the larger firms have been telling us that while maybe 10, 15 years ago, they wanted to reduce the number of suppliers, today they're looking to have a little bit more diversification in their supply chain. In particular, making sure that they're still partnering with the best and brightest in each vertical that they're looking to outsource.
Russ, what are you hearing?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll just take a step back even before the geopolitical situation has evolved in the last year and a half, back to COVID. When basically every global supply chain was impacted and not in a great way. And so the conversations that we see span from industry, where folks are looking at their capacity and how can they adapt advanced bioprocessing into their capacity and create regional opportunities for their manufacturing to support global products. And we're also speaking with a lot of smaller teams that want to step into the biotech space because they want assurance of supply. And that's a really important thing. I mean, if you look across the world, you can probably count maybe a dozen places where you've got a lot of expertise and a lot of manufacturing, but that is absolutely not the way it is across the world in a regional basis. And so, you have countries and you have companies that are looking to be able to establish a biotech's excellence, in their area so that they can create value for their patient populations, because COVID's probably not going to be the last pandemic we see. And so, teams want to be prepared with a solution for patients on a regional basis.
Yeah, no, I think you do a great point bringing up COVID, where first everybody started worrying and talking about supply and so on. And then obviously recently, I've been of the opinion lately that for global products, you need at least US for US, Europe for Europe, and Asia for Asia supply strategy. But to your point, in the US and Europe, you have some. In Asia, you can do India or Japan or South Korea possibly. But you have to have all three to some extent, and you have to have some strategy for a global product where in other parts of Asia, Africa, and South America, where that supply is also possible, because it's not assured, you cannot rely on this global supply anymore. Um, so, and one of the things that got me thinking about it was actually talking to you, Russ, early on, when you say, look, I've never had more people asking about when can you do local manufacturing where I am than I've ever had before. Where I used to have one or two of those conversations. Now almost everybody asks. So I think that's really important. I think the other thing that people don't appreciate fully is what you mentioned on talent and skills. Not only do you have to have the capability for all the precursors and media and supplies you need, and then you need to have the regulatory expertise and the permitting and all of that. And then you have to have construction expertise, and then you have to have um, e- e- equipment and supplies and the know-how how to put this all together. So, Russ, maybe talk a little bit about the fascinating thing you're trying to do with Enzine to try to address some of these things in partnerships with clients and even countries.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Elliot. I mean, it's when folks are looking at how do they manage supply, right? It's not just about capacity. It's about having the workforce, having the knowledge, and having something that is accessible for the state of where they're at. And if you look at traditional commercial scale manufacturing, you're either looking at some level of single-use technology at 2,000 or 5,000 liter. And, if you're looking at 2,000, that's going to be in usually a 3, 4, or 5 train configuration. And if you want to go to the next level, it's talking about 10,000 or 20,000 liter stainless steel. And those come with a price tag. They come with a $300, $500 billion price tag to build out a commercial plant. And they can sometimes take anywhere from 4 to 5 years to do that. And then if you layer in on top teams that want to bring this capability into their arena or area where they haven't had traditional biologics development capability, it's a really hard struggle to figure out how to make that successful. And so if you can come to the table with an advanced bioprocessing technology that basically fits into 1,500 square feet of space and gives you the equivalent output of a 10,000 liter bioreactor, then you create an enablement for a regional market where they need the medicine to be available for their patients and their patients in their country. And they don't need $1 billion plant. And they need to have a scalable, modular, flexible facility that can deliver products on an efficient basis where the investment is less than 150 million. And you can look at that and have on the front end a build out in 12 months or a complete ready to go plant within 3 years. And that is transformative. And so Enzine, one of the things we've recognized in talking with folks is how can we leverage what we do naturally as a part of our own organization and deliver that to folks? And we have a month long, like 9 to 12 month long training process within our organization. And we can layer that training on top of a design and facility validation process, along with access to a fully connected continuous manufacturing technology and products on the back end. So really, it's a bundled deal where folks can have access to training, technology, and support to put a plant in a place where they may have pharmaceutical expertise, right? They may have been doing small molecules for decades. And we can leverage that, but it takes a skill up to go into bioprocessing. And that's where Enzene is looking to take our Enzene X platform and help these companies out in what I would call a non-traditional engagement that, most of the time CDMOs we're seeing here as a capacity play as a partner to help leverage global launches. Well, in this case, we're looking to try to help folks enable themselves to put in place manufacturing that fits the scale of what they need.
And I think that that's really an innovative approach, what I kind of call potentially, Enzene anywhere. Whether you can manufacture in India, you can come to manufacture if you're brand new factory in Princeton, New Jersey, the swampland.
Yep.
You can also then partner with you and get a full sort of support to establish your own in-house manufacturing, either within your factory or build a new one that is enabled by the expertise and the training and the approvals and the technology. And it all comes with the continuous manufacturing technology that really delivers the yield in a smaller facility. That's really innovative. Let's talk about the small molecule for a minute, Ken, before we close. I think people kind of underestimate two things. One, what it takes to produce certain difficult elements, and the API production in the US isn't the most established and dispersed over the last few years. It all went overseas. But also the fact that you don't necessarily need to take all the manufacturing steps. You can do some of the latter manufacturing steps in the US. Don't tell the government I said that. But I think, Kent, you are, been talking to customers about doing some such bespoke arrangements as a plant within a plant, or even a new building, or even a part
That's right.
where you work as a part of that supply chain to do some of this latest steps in the USA.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, there's a wide range of concerns that people have, and we've had a lot of different clients and others come to talk to us about partnering in different ways. We've made a significant investment, and Harry Lee, our CEO, is one of the few who's expanded API manufacturing over the last decade or so. He caught the vision early, and again, as I said before, we're really looking around geographic diversification. We recognize that there are large players all over the world, and that there are certain parts of the ecosystem that aren't going to change immediately. So what we have been doing is talk about a number of things. One, we have clients who are looking to put scale and capacity here, whether it's dedicated or whether it's just simply carving out a piece of what we're already planning to invest in building out the next suite. We made an announcement, and we're going to be adding a couple of suites in the 10,000 liter-ish scale. And but again, we're on an advantaged 54 acres in Newark, Delaware, which gives us it was a former DuPont site, as you mentioned, and this allows us from a zoning perspective to do whatever heavy commercial synthetic chemistry we need to do for our clients and our partners. And so today we are very open and flexible to be able to have those conversations, in particular, though, because we have a 23-year history of excellence when it comes to complex synthetic development, developing those processes, the solid state chemistry component, starting with IND enabling type projects to help our clients get into the clinic, and then from the clinic move forward to commercial. And given our new investments, our clients can start with us, and they can stay with us all the way through commercial.
Yeah, no, I think that's in the world of particularly small molecule API capacity in the US is very limited, and having a proven partner is important. And I think also having a strong financial partner in CureWell Capital that's willing, and able to co-invest here to create these things with partnerships and have the flexibility to do something really customized is important. I'm going to try to close here and try to get to the presentations from our multiple CDMO presenters, talk about what they have available, how they think about things. But I wanted to start with this because these kind of custom arrangements are more difficult to make, and in the make versus build versus invest versus partner conversations have a particular role. And I think these two companies, with Enzene and Wilmington, in very different ways, try to address this situation. Thank you guys very much for joining us. It's much appreciated. And everyone else, please stay tuned for some great presentations from companies like Novartis and Alchemy and Adair and Bend and so on what they have to say about this reshoring, regional manufacturing trends and capacity. Thank you very much, guys, and have a wonderful May.
Thank you, Aled. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. My name is Audrey Butler, and I am the Senior Vice President of North American Manufacturing Operations for Adair Pharma Solutions. At Adair, we believe that transforming drug delivery and transforming lives is achieved through fast, flexible, and flawless manufacturing. Fast because speed to market matters more than ever, flexible because every product and every client is unique, and flawless because in our industry, quality is never an option. Today, I'd like to share with you how Adair achieves fast, flexible, and flawless manufacturing in the United States. Adair is a global technology-driven CDMO delivering fully integrated end-to-end services. From the very beginning of your project and through every step of your journey, you work with the same team of development and manufacturing experts, each of them dedicated to our core commitments of quality, continuous improvement, and client centricity. Our core expertise is in small molecules with a strong focus on oral dosage forms. This includes multi-particulates, mini tablets, and capsules. What differentiates us is our specialized technology platforms for taste masking and customer release that promote patient compliance and improve patients' experiences and outcomes. Our strong U.S. manufacturing and technical transfer capabilities support local supply needs that can seamlessly connect into a broader global network. Adair is a true end-to-end CDMO partner across development, manufacturing, and packaging. With in-house expertise in development and technical services, we enable seamless scale-up from early development through clinical and commercial supply, limiting the need for product transfers and supporting speed to market. We bring deep formulation expertise that overcome formulation challenges using our advanced drug delivery technology platforms that include taste masking, solubility enhancement, ODTs, and modified release systems for oral solid dosage forms. All of this is supported with a robust analytical development and validation services to support flawless regulatory submissions. All of this is anchored in a patient-centric approach focused on enabling the best compliance and therapeutic experiences for our patients. My career with Adair started at our Vandalia, Ohio facility, which is our center of excellence for development and clinical and commercial production in the United States. The site spans 179,000 square feet, supporting large-scale, flexible operations and operates on a 24/7 schedule, enabling ample capacity and reliable supply. Vandalia is approved by the US FDA, the European health authorities, and several other global health authorities, reinforcing its global importance. The site is a center of excellence for development and production of DEA-controlled substances and supports clients with strategies to secure quota. The site's long history of experience with the use of organic solvents and advanced technologies like microcaps and partulate, along with core processing capabilities, enable differentiated drug supply. Our Lenexa, Kansas facility was acquired in 2020 to expand our drug delivery technology platform. The 5,616 square foot facility supports the development scale non-GMP innovation work for our Optimum platform, which focuses on controlled release and taste masking of oral powders, and our Stratum platform that enables subcutaneous injectables with controlled and pulse release profiles. Lenexa plays a critical role in early formulation design and technology development of long-acting formulations that improve patient compliance by reducing dosing frequency. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, you'll find our global headquarters and packaging center of excellence led by an experienced leadership team. The 175,000 square foot integrated packaging and controlled room temperature warehousing facility supports large-scale packaging operations of bottles, blisters, and stick packs. In addition to the bottle lines, the blister line, and the stick pack line, the site has 2 additional suites available for expanded capacity immediately and ample space for future expansion. This high volume capability supports packaging for approximately 4 billion tablets and capsules annually, including DEA-controlled substances.
In addition to supporting packaging of products made at any of our global manufacturing facilities, Philadelphia is also a standalone contract packaging center of excellence. By overcoming formulation challenges through our advanced drug delivery technologies, Adara is flexible. Because we integrate early stage development with clinical production, commercial production, and packaging, Adara is fast. And because we have fewer handoffs, therefore lowering risks and leading to more predictable outcomes for our customers, we are flawless. Behind every product we manufacture, there is a person, a patient, a family, a life impacted by the therapies we bring to market. That's why at Adara Pharma Solutions, transforming drug delivery means transforming lives. Thank you for your time and attention.
Hello, my name is David Smithwick. I'm the general manager for Ben Bioscience, and we're a US-based CDMO focused on small molecule oral dose development and manufacturing. And we're really seeing a shift in the environment, and more so an acceleration toward greater focus on supply chain reliability. And we all know that's a result of the changes in the world as we see them, whether that be political or whether that be geopolitical. So there are a lot of changes in the current pharma world that are increasing everyone's concern around supply chain and making sure you have redundancy and reliability. And we are a US-based CDMO, so we're keenly focused on this idea of onshoring and making sure that there's consistent supply of products for the US market. So we are strongly positioned to help you with that if you do want to onshore, or perhaps you just want to build redundancy in your supply chain. And we do that through comprehensive capabilities. We can help you with your regulatory filing. We also have a lot of experience with global supply chain. We have recently transferred in products from the Japanese market. So we're familiar with dealing with the global supply chain and the challenges, risk mitigation, and those types of things. And one of the things we pride ourselves on is being able to move extremely quickly, because we know some of these challenges do pop up overnight or very quickly, and you need to move, because the last thing any of us want is patients without medication or companies without revenue streams. So we're fully capable and ready to begin work immediately. As I mentioned, we do offer several different services as it relates to oral solid dose and liquids. Do focus on oral and rare diseases, and we're ready to onboard those programs now. As you can see on the slide, bioavailability is really a focus for us. We enjoy and have a strong scientific team that helps solve problems as it relates to bioavailability. We do have a strong presence in spray dry dispersion in our facility in Oregon, and we have years of experience in multi-particulates, oral solid dose type products, controlled release products. We have over 20 years of experience, and that becomes really important when you need to move quickly and build redundancy in your supply chain. You know, our capabilities range from anywhere from the most simple tablet to the most complex multi-bead formulations. And we also have capacity and capabilities in both controlled substance and high potency. So we offer a broad range of capabilities to help you with regard to building your supply chain redundancy and support. And as it relates specifically to that, one of the things that I enjoy talking about in bioscience, we offer not only the high science, but the high service. And we have had consistent OTIF above 95% on our commercial products year over year. So we're extremely proud of that. And we know that resonates with customers who are concerned about building reliable supply for their patients, as well as the revenue streams for their companies. We do have recent experience with tech transferring difficult products from different markets. We've had we have recent experience where we've transferred in products that were manufactured in different countries. We helped with those filings. Those filings went in without incident, without comment, and PAIs were waived. So we do have recent example of where we're able to help customers move quickly and build redundancy and security in their supply chain. A little bit about our sites. So we do have 3 sites. We have a Florida site, we have an Oregon site, and Gainesville, Georgia. And those sites have capabilities that overlap somewhat, but they also can be quite different. One of those I'd like to highlight is the Oregon site, which is specialized in spray dry dispersion, and they specialize in early development, solving those very complex absorption issues, and then that goes up to around a phase 2 size. But I'm really excited to say that we're also in the middle of expanding our Georgia facility to offer commercial spray drying capability. And that capability will be coming online in 2027. So as you can see, we have an array of services to meet the customer need, wherever that may be. And we're extremely reliable, focused on a market where we think is unserved, providing a level of science and service that is just unparalleled. And one of the specific reasons that I enjoy being with Ben Bioscience is we really are increasing the bar here and providing a different level of experience. I welcome you to reach out to me or our business development team. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love for you to visit our facilities and let us help you with onshoring and building resiliency in your supply chain.
Hello, everyone. Carrie Bracco here from Novartis Contract Manufacturing, here to talk a little bit about Novartis Contract Manufacturing as a whole and some of the capabilities that we offer, as well as some of our new expansion opportunities that we're having here in the United States. First and foremost, with us in contract manufacturing, really our people are at the heart of what we do, performing with integrity and agility. So when you partner with us, your manufacturing challenges become our manufacturing commitment, and your success defines our reputation. We offer a variety of technologies within our contract manufacturing services, from biologics, cell banking, mammalian, microbial, small molecule, oral solid dose, oligonucleotides, peptides, cell and gene therapies, xRNA, and fill and finish. We have full GMP expertise, have a wide range of manufacturing capabilities for both clinical and commercial products, and we have a global reach with 20 sites worldwide in Asia, Europe, and the United States. Here's a snapshot of all of our manufacturing locations around the globe. And here I'm specifically going to be talking about some of the expansion activities that we have in the U.S. Durham, North Carolina area. We are expanding both within one of our existing sites, where it's in Durham, North Carolina, in our gene therapy site. We're going to be expanding into adding a fill finish area to that site. So that's actually an existing site already operational. And there is some open space that we have there that we're going to be adding the 2 filling lines. One line will be a flex filler line, so it'll handle cartridges, vials, and PFS. And the second line that we're adding will be PFS line. And the timing on that, we are starting those immediately, and we'll be having capacity open for contract manufacturing and open to start talking about tech transfer activities very shortly. The second site right next door in Durham, North Carolina, we're adding is more of a bit of a greenfield / brownfield area. So we have a building that has some existing infrastructure, and then we're going to be adding on to that building. And that will become our drug substance manufacturing site in the North Carolina region. And we're really excited about that campus. It will be designed to meet all of our sustainability standard. It's going to be a very highly automated facility, and it will be for the biologics drug substance. We're adding 2 13,000 liter reactors now, but we actually have room for expansion on that. So if there's any particular need or anything special, we're certainly open to start discussing that now. We'll also be N-1 perfusion equipped. And we're really looking forward to starting to talk to people, get partnering on what their needs are. Since this site is a bit of a greenfield, we are open with partnering if there's anything specific that's needed and get those put into the plans now so that we could be incorporating any of those process changes earlier rather than later into the actual site development that we're working on. The other site is for small molecules, and that will be in Morrisville, North Carolina, so just a little bit away near the airport. And here will be for mostly it'll be for our oral solid dose facility. We will have wet media milling, roller compaction, tablet compression and coating, encapsulation, blister wallet, and bottle packaging there. And we will be doing some drug substance for siRNA, ASO, and peptides as well. And kind of the same thing that I had mentioned before on the drug substance side, this is an existing infrastructure and we're starting very quickly to get that up and running. And here we also are open if there's any specialty equipment, if any one of our clients would like to partner with us. We're very open to talking about that now so that we can incorporate that equipment into the process plans and have that done now. So we're very open and flexible if anyone would like to talk further about some of these expansions that we have and any specific needs that you may have in contract manufacturing, please feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to get into some more details with this on when we plan on the tech transfer ready, PPQs, and final validation of the site. So happy to share more of those details and look forward to speaking with you soon. And coming up next, watch out for my colleague Isabel Furstein. She'll be talking a little bit about our capabilities in the network outside of the US. Thank you very much.
And everyone, welcome back to the editorial desk. I hope you've enjoyed the panel so far, as well as the presentations from CDMOs on their US capacity. Stay tuned for the European section coming up. But first, we have a special interview with my friend Gil, who I call the CDMO man in Washington and the president of Pharma and Biopharma Outsourcing Association. And any CDMO that's not yet a member should absolutely be, because you won't get anywhere as much access to information without Gil than you would. Gil and I go back way back when he was still an editor-in-chief in Contract Pharma and a industry specialist from that end. Welcome, Gil, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, and thanks for the plug.
Absolutely. Well worth it. Look, so, you are the key man in this whole conversation. We had Jim Binsky and Jennifer Cannon and a few other people and a bunch of CMOs talking about the need for digital manufacturing this year. It's not only the geopolitics, but also, going all the way back to COVID and those disruptions and the wars and closings and various other supply chain issues. But clearly, a lot of it is driven by geopolitics these days out of Washington and elsewhere. So I know you've been trying to decipher the undecipherable, if I may use the word, but what are you hearing? What's new in the latest? What does it really mean for sponsors and CDMOs?
What I feel bad about, thanks, Elliot. What I feel bad because we're recording this a day or two before I'm going to be talking to the Department of Commerce to try to make some sense of the Section 232 pharma supply chain tariffs that got announced a few weeks ago. There's a number of aspects of that pronouncement or proclamation, I think it was called, that establishes onshoring, the need for onshoring in order to bypass certain pharmaceutical tariffs the U.S. is going to implement in the name of national security. It's unclear what some of the onshoring criteria are. This is where CMOs really come into play. We've seen in the past year plus under the current administration, a lot of major pharmas making these enormous announcements of billions and billions of dollars to build facilities here. Basically we'll say the top 17 companies that the president sent these letters to insisting on onshoring and most favored nation pricing have made those agreements. The problem is there are like 1,700 more companies behind them, and not all of them can afford to put bricks and mortar in the ground. And that's where, if they're looking at onshoring to try to
escape from the tariffs or at least find some relief from them, we need to make sure the Department of Commerce and the rest of the administration understands that tech transfer to a domestic CDMO should, count as onshoring. That's going to be part of my job later this week and, in the months ahead as they work to implement what that Section 232 tariff probe does. Beyond that, I mean, there are a number of carve-outs and exceptions within the announcement, and there are things that, won't be moved to domestic CMOs or domestic manufacturing for a variety of supply chain reasons. But I think you're right. Post-COVID, we learned a lot about supply chain fragility and resilience, and seeing what things, can actually handle supply shocks and what can't has been a big lesson for us. And we're seeing right now with the Strait of Hormuz shut down and what that can mean for a lot of knock-on effects. It could ultimately impact CDMOs and the pharma world and patients.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. One thing, I've been taking away from this constant set of changes in policy, and not only in Washington, but also in Brussels and in the UK and in China and India as well, is that regardless of the current flavor, you can't really afford to rely on that. And you need to have at least a backup source of supply in US for US patients, in Europe for European patients, and Asia for Asian patients. Would you, what do you think about that view?
In some respects, that's what we're seeing. There is a sense of regionalization, but at the same time, especially if you're not one of those multi-billion-dollar companies, you know, there are economies of scale to be had working out of, single manufacturing as a hub and distributing around the world. Regionalization carries costs too. It's not just, allowing for smaller nodes that can supply particular regions. Any shocks to those regions mean the other ones need to pick up the slack, and the cost of that can be onerous, depending on, the sort of product that you're making, the sourcing. Part of the issue being that for a lot of drugs, you're still looking at sourcing key starting materials from a narrow number of places, even if your API or dosage form is a more local and regionalized solution.
No, that's for sure. There's more variety of steps, I think, in there where you can kind of qualify some providers in each area. And I tell customers, look, you need to make one batch at least to keep the priority going. So at least you have that option. You have a contract that has to scale. The other thing is that it's also kind of interesting, and starting materials and things of that nature are definitely true. And if you look at all the supply chain, it gets substantially complicated. But what are you seeing in the current regulations, about the time-honored strategy of making the last 2 or 3 steps locally, then declaring it local content? Is that going to fly?
That also remains to be seen what they're going to consider domestically manufactured for the US based on that tariff announcement, and then what the EU and other regions also respond with. If you look at the auto industry and the way they would count certain things as local or domestic content, and now that's all being blown up because the US government is trying to change what steel and aluminum components count as. Um, there's some arbitrariness, and seeing how pharma companies are going to negotiate that and how their CDMO service providers are going to enable it, you know, it's going to be a challenge. There's an awful lot of those going on in this particular era, trying to figure out, who makes what where and what counts as manufactured versus a final step. We had this with the FDA user fee negotiations for generic drugs, where there were some questions about, for a few America First policies that the FDA presented us with, what would really count as in the US. For one area, there's a question about manufacturing APIs here, but APIs for generics are typically kind of huddled within a drug master file, a type 2 DMF as it's known, and those can include multiple facilities in multiple countries. And you might say that DMF, we're only going to use the US facility to manufacture drug X, but there is the possibility that you're sourcing from other ex-US facilities that are legally carried within that same type 2 DMF. So trying to figure out how you assure the manufacturing content of certain things and what you count as domestic is certainly going to be a challenge.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that underscores the need to study this quite carefully and have a regional source of supply qualified and set up and flexible in terms of the volume it delivers, knowing where your materials come from all the way to the end, and working with somebody like you and able to try to keep people abreast on latest changes, so that there are strategies on the last steps. So the strategies of what type of products are necessary and what type of products are carved out. There's a number of carve outs there for rare and orphan and a few other things, right?
Yeah, definitely. There's orphans, antibody drug conjugates, and things like that. And they, under this current regime, would get zero tariff if they come from one of the countries with which we have a trade agreement, or if they meet United States health needs, which is all it says. So figuring out what constitutes a US health need is, again, going to be an area where someone's going to need to do advocacy. That one stretches beyond the CMOs, much more into the license holder side of things. But there's a lot of ambiguity in a lot of these pronouncements, and trying to figure out the impact that's going to have on sourcing decisions, how manufacturing gets done and where, is certainly the question for our current age.
Yeah, no, I mean, so the one thing I always encourage the industry to think about, look, we're in it for the patients, and the cost of goods sold isn't the hugest part of the cost equation here compared to the R&D amortization and the running of this whole enterprise. So having a secure regional supply option that allows for uninterrupted supply to all the patients is probably a worthwhile effort, regardless of anything else, and especially in this uncertain times. Last question, I guess, for you. What are you expecting over the next few months? What's next on the agenda for the industry to watch for?
I've learned in the last 16 months that we really can't expect anything, or anything we do expect doesn't exactly happen. I'll say, from a PBOA perspective, we just finished the generic drug user fee negotiations. That's being finalized now with a couple of the other user fee packages with FDA. That could lead to, that is going to lead to a reauthorization bill at some point in the next year. A lot of FDA related bills can get added to that. Now, the timing of this could be weird depending on what the midterm elections bring, what timeline Congress currently has for trying to review these things. We did finish those negotiations like 5 months earlier than they usually do in their 5-year cycle. I've heard scuttlebutt they want to try to get these user fees reauthorized before the election, which there doesn't seem to be enough legislative time to do that. We'll see what ends up transpiring in that end of things. But from a policy perspective, it's that trying to figure out how FDA is going to rebuild after what happened last year, and how the user fees and other stuff is going to play into FDA's ability to function. That's going to be of paramount importance to license holders and to the CMOs who serve them.
No, that's clearly a lot of things going on. And, to my point, I think you gotta design the original manufacturing supply strategy to withstand all those
Mitigate risk.
Yeah, it's a big risk. I guess in the interim, I think you have to stay close to you and watch the news carefully, and maybe we can get back together before bio and do another update on what's going on as the industry gets ready to meet.
I'm sure everything will have changed by then. Everything will have changed in the span of a month. We'll see.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. It was always a pleasure. And everybody, please stay tuned to more news from the source, and stay tuned for the European CDMO update section coming up in this broadcast. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Elliot.
Cheers.
So hi everyone, my name's Nick Hodgson. I'm the General Manager at the Codis Haverhill site. Codis is a global pharmaceutical CDMO which was officially launched in October 2025. We specialise in commercial spray drying for amorphous solid dispersions and other particle engineering technologies. So I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about why onshoring matters in Europe and how Codis can support that. So what we've seen across Europe is pharmaceutical companies are increasingly prioritizing onshoring or indeed nearshoring to try and reduce dependency on complex and sometimes fragile global supply chains. There are several drivers for this: security of supply for critical medicines, faster response times to market regulatory changes, alignment with EMA and MHRA GMP frameworks, and we've all seen, the geopolitical situation and logistical risks, I think, increasing in the current climate. So our European operations at Codis were deliberately designed to try and support these objectives through large-scale CGMP manufacturing, which is based in the UK, but we're also integrated into a global but more resilient network. So commercial spray drying is one of Codis's key offerings, and we operate one of the widest ranges of spray drying platforms in the world, and that's located on our site in Haverhill in Suffolk in the UK. European customers can benefit from aqueous and solvent-based spray drying for different applications. We have multi-phase capability, so we can support clients from development all the way through to commercial production at varying scales. The annual spray drying output capacity is somewhere in excess of 5,000 metric tons. In order to achieve this, the site houses multiple GMP qualified spray dryers, including two of the largest pharmaceutical spray dryers globally, enabling the manufacture of both niche, highly potent compounds as well as high volume products. And these can be supplied to European-based clients or indeed global markets. A key focus for us, and I think the market generally, is amorphous solid dispersions to help address bioavailability challenges. So this is in response to a growing number of poorly soluble drug candidates. Kind of the data varies, but I think it's generally accepted that around 70 to 80% of new small molecule drug candidates face some form of solubility challenge. This can be met by a number of different technologies, but spray-dried amorphous dispersions are popular. They're well established. They provide excellent performance characteristics, and we have a lot of flexibility in terms of the volumes that we can produce. So in order to supply this service, some key elements that we provide are clinical to commercial scale-up. This is usually quite important for clients because the API supplies can be very limited in terms of being able to really maximize the benefit of the scale-up process, do it as fast and as efficiently as possible. We use robust process modeling and simulation to support that. It's a key part of our tech transfer process. And we need to provide consistent regulator-approved commercial supply. And we are one of the few sites that can do that from within the European continent. I think an important proof point of European onshoring capability is our role one of the world's primary manufacturers of Sevelamer. We were actually the originator of that product, which is a treatment for hyperphosphatemia. And this product requires consistent and timely production campaigns, but it does demonstrate our ability to sustain long-term, high-quality commercial supplies from the UK, and under pretty strict regulatory scrutiny and also increasing global competition for what is now a generic product. We're also committed to expanding our manufacturing capabilities within Europe. So we've recently announced last month the expansion of our UK spray drying capacity. This will include the installation of a large-scale solvent-capable GMP spray dryer designated as a PSD4. So this will be capable of producing commercial batches of up to 500 kilos, and depending on the process, could have an annual capacity of somewhere between 20 and 30 metric tons per annum. This will strengthen the European-based supply for these late-stage and commercial products using AST in their manufacturing process. So we're expecting that system to be operational in 2027. And we're looking to provide that capacity to European customers. We know this is an area that's quite constrained in the general market at the moment. So in summary, Codis's European onshoring capabilities are really built on a large-scale GMP-certified manufacturing site in the UK, world-leading spray drying ASD technologies, a lot of years, indeed decades, of regulatory credibility at the site, and proven delivery of critical medicines to global markets. And for pharmaceutical companies seeking secure, scalable, European-based manufacturing, Codis offers that capacity and also the confidence to deliver.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the introduction. My name is Armando Pedotto, Senior Vice President of Adair Italy Operations. I'm glad to be here and present our manufacturing capabilities in Europe. So at Adair Pharma Solutions, we believe that transforming drug delivery truly means transforming lives. And today, I'd like to focus on one clear message: fast, flexible, and flawless manufacturing in European Union. Fast, because speed to market matters more than ever. Flexible, because every product and every customer is unique. And flawless, because in our industry, quality is never optional. So let me briefly explain why this matters so much today. Adair Pharma Solution is much more than a manufacturer. We are a global technology-driven CDMO and a strategic partner for oral solid dose success. What truly differentiates us is our end-to-end integrated approach, from early product development all the way through commercial manufacturing and packaging. We bring a deep expertise in small molecules and oral dosage forms, including multiparticulates, mini tablets, and capsules filling. And at the same time, our specialized technology platforms help address the real patient needs, whether through taste masking, customized release profiles, or patient-centric dosing solutions. All of this is supported by strong European manufacturing expertise, ensuring a reliable regional supply with global reach. What really enables us to deliver on this promise is our fully integrated CDMO model. In Europe, we support our customers across technology platforms, development, manufacturing, and packaging in a seamless and coordinated way. We have overcome formulation challenges through advanced drug delivery technologies, and then translate development into execution through robust GMP manufacturing and strong tech transfer capabilities. And the real value of this integration is simple: fewer hands-off, lower risk, and faster, more predictable outcomes for our customers. A great example of this integration in practice is our Pesano facility here in Italy. This site combines advanced GMP laboratories, seamlessly integrated R&D, and commercial manufacturing, supported by an experienced in-house regulatory team with strong global track record. With over 20,000 square meters of space, Pesano supports formulation development, taste masking, and controlled release solutions, as well as clinical and commercial scale manufacturing for capsules and tablets. The presence of analytical, processing, and development scale packaging capabilities ensures continuity and reliability across the product life cycle. And to further strengthen our European offer, we have expanded our packaging and warehousing capabilities at Pesano. We added a purpose-built packaging hall equipped with advanced blister technology and full serialization support. And in parallel, we invested in a new on-site warehouse designed to improve material handling, storage, and overall supply chain efficiency. For our customers, this translates into greater flexibility, shorter lead times, and reduced supply risk, or within a fully controlled GMP environment. In addition to Pesano, our San Giuliano site further strengthens our European manufacturing network. This facility is focused on commercial scale production, supporting tablets and capsules for the European market through flexible and reliable manufacturing. With advanced controlled release technologies and high standards for quality, safety, and environmental compliance, San Giuliano provides the scale and robustness required for long-term commercial supply. Together, our Italian sites give our partner capacity, continuity, and confidence fully within Europe. So behind every product we manufacture, there is a person, a passion, a family, a life impacted by the therapies we help bring to the market. That's why at Adair Pharma Solution, transforming drug delivery truly means transforming lives. So thank you for your time and your attention today.
Hello, everybody. I'm Isabel Feuerstein, and today I'm representing Novartis Contract Manufacturing. I'm leading the business development team for Europe and Asia. And today I give you a snapshot of our core services. We offer biologics, starting with cell bank manufacturing, mammalian and microbial manufacturing. We can also offer fill finish with a drug product filling in various types of containers, so vials, lyo, syringes, and cartridges. We also can offer device assembly and packaging. It is also complemented by cell and gene therapy, where we then offer end-to-end with plasmid DNA, cell therapy, gene therapy, and also viral vectors. For xRNA, we can offer mRNA, LNP, siRNA, and just recently we opened our manufacturing network for small molecules, where we can offer oral solid dosage, oligonucleotides, and peptide purification. If you decide to go with Novartis, you can leverage our strengths. We have decades of GMP expertise in contract manufacturing. We do clinical and commercial products out of all our sites. And in these days, it's very important to leverage a global network. And with about 20 sites worldwide in Asia, Europe, and US, we believe we are a very competent partner. To start with our biological manufacturing network in Europe and Asia, I start with our biggest site in Austria, Kundl-Schaftenau, where we do microbial mammalian manufacturing in all different scales, small scale, mid scale, and large scale. We also offer our Huineng mammalian site and Singapore site for large scale manufacturing, and Menges in Slovenia and Basel in Switzerland for clinical supply. This is a rather more smaller scale, 2,000 to 3,000 liter. Both sites are capable to support clinical manufacturing, but also will be, depending on the demand, able to support commercial. Adding our fill and finish sites, again, our Austrian site is also capable to do fill and finish of biologics in cartridges and syringes. We have Switzerland in Stein and Ljubljana site having all other modalities like vials, lyo, and cartridges and syringes. And with our site in Poers in Belgium, we have a very special site focusing on ophthalmic products and biologics, and special focus on eye care biologics. To add now into the map cell and gene therapy, as I mentioned before, we can offer end-to-end manufacturing, starting with the plasmid DNA in Kundl-Schaftenau site. We do cell therapy in Stein, Switzerland, and the gene therapy and viral vector manufacturing in Slovenia, Menges. For xRNA, we also have a manufacturing facility for mRNA LNP in Kundl, Austria. And for siRNA, we have a large site in Schweizerhalle, Switzerland. To complement this picture on small molecules, I have to admit I only added the biggest small molecule sites. So Novartis has a couple of more small molecule sites around the globe. But depending on your request, we would all evaluate all our capabilities across the sites. But here to mention in this call, our biggest site is Slovenia, Ljubljana, followed by Italy Torre and Romania Targu Mureș, and also our Switzerland Schweizer Halle site for peptide purification. In small molecules, I think we have a very broad range of technology for oral dosage form, which is, I think, for all the new programs coming up, very interesting for you to support. I want to mention too today that Europe and Asia is not the only facilities we can offer. So please also watch out. Carrie Brack, who is my counterpart in the US, she's going to share the latest Novartis US expansion and investment updates across all the technologies. So don't hesitate to watch out her and reach out to us. Happy to jump on a call with you. Thank you for listening.